There's a pile of bones in the back of a cave, and every single thing in it was food. Horse bones, cracked wide open for the marrow inside, bison ribs scraped clean, the ordinary leavings of a busy, successful predator, and laid among them, no different from all the rest, is a human thigh bone, gnawed, chewed at both ends by strong jaws. Reduced to exactly the same status as the horse and the bison lying beside it in the dirt. To whatever dragged this bone into the dark and cracked it, there was no difference at all. The horse was meat, the bison was meat, and the man was meat too. This is not the clean, cinematic terror of being chased across a plain by a great cat. This is something older and dirtier and far more humbling. This is the story of a rival that did not just kill our kind, it scavenged us, it cracked us for our marrow, and it kept our bones in its home like so much garbage. In Ice Age France, the line between being the hunter and being the refuse was thin, and some nights it broke. Her name in our story is Vale, and she is a Neanderthal, strong, sharp-eyed, a seasoned hunter of the same big, dangerous, cold country game her people have hunted for 100 generations. She lives in a gorge in what is now the Vienne region of France, a place of pale limestone cliffs and dark caves punched into them, and a river below that the animals must cross. It is good ground. The herds funnel through the narrow places. The caves offer shelter from the killing cold. Everything a predator could want is gathered here in one gorge, which is exactly the problem, because Vale's band is not the only predator that knows how good this ground is. The hyenas are here too. And not the hyenas you might picture from the sun-baked plains of Africa today. These are cave hyenas, larger, heavier, more powerful, and they den inside the very same caves that Vale's people want for themselves. Two apex predators, one gorge, the same herds, the same shelters, the same narrow and unforgiving little world. They hunt the same horses, they fight for the same caves. And there is simply not enough of either to go around. So understand, this is not a story of monsters against innocents, of pure evil against helpless prey. It is a story of two kinds of killers, roughly evenly matched, locked together in a long, grinding, exhausting war over the same ground. Vale always knows the clan is out there. She reads their tracks in the mud at the water's edge. She hears their strange, whooping, laughing calls carry down the gorge in the dark, and she treats them the way you treat a rival you both respect and hate, with a constant, wearing, never-ending caution that never fully lets her sleep. Because to relax here even once is to die, and the caves themselves tell the story of this stalemate, written in layers. When archaeologists dig down through the floor of a place like this, they find the record of it stacked up in bands, a layer of human tools and human hearths, and then above it, a layer of hyena bones and hyena droppings and gnawed remains, and then human again. The same shelter changing hands over and over across the centuries, Neanderthals holding it for a season, then losing it to the clan, then taking it back. Neither side ever won it for good. They simply traded it, the way they traded everything in this gorge, including, sometimes, the bodies of the dead. The war between them is not always open and loud. Most of the time it is something quieter and in its own way more chilling. It is a war of theft. A horse goes down. Maybe Vale's band brings it down with spears. Maybe the hyena clan runs it to ground. Either way, both sides want that carcass, and neither side can hold it forever. Say Vale's people reach it first. They work fast and hard, cutting the meat away from the bone with sharp flint blades, stripping off everything they can carry before the light fails and the clan comes to reclaim it. And we know they did exactly this, not because anyone wrote it down, but because the bones themselves remember it. On the animal bones from these French gorges, archaeologists find the clean, straight scars left by stone tools, cut marks. The unmistakable signature of a Neanderthal knife at work. But on some of those very same bones, they find something else, sitting right on top of the cut marks, tooth marks, hyena tooth marks. And here's the detail that makes the whole thing crawl under your skin. The tooth marks lie over the cut marks, on top of them. Read that again slowly because the order is everything. First came the human knife. Then on top of it came the hyena's teeth. It means Vale's people butchered that horse, and then when they had gone, the hyenas arrived, found the leftovers still fresh enough to be worth the trouble, and finished off exactly what the humans had started. The two species were processing the very same carcasses, sometimes only hours apart. Human first, hyena second. Passing a single dead horse back and forth across the razor's edge of the freezing night, again and again, for tens of thousands of years. And the direction of that theft matters more than you might think, because it tells us something uncomfortable about who, on any given day, had the upper hand. Sometimes it surely ran the other way. Vale's people driving hyenas off a fresh kill and taking it for themselves. But here in this bone, in this evidence, it is the humans who were displaced. They cut what they could, and then they had to leave, and the clan moved in to take the rest. Not because the humans were done, but because the dark was coming, and the dark belonged to the hyenas. To truly understand what Vale is afraid of, what keeps her scanning those dark cliffs, you have to understand what a cave hyena's jaws can actually do. A big cat kills you, eats the soft parts, and leaves the skeleton lying there in the grass, mostly whole. A hyena is built from the ground up to leave nothing behind at all. Its skull, its jaw muscles, its heavy conical teeth are all engineered for one purpose: to crush. It can bite clean through a horse's femur, one of the single strongest bones in the entire animal world, and crack it wide open to get at the rich marrow trapped inside. It does not merely eat you, it processes you. It reduces you methodically to fragments, and then it swallows the fragments down. And here is the most intimate horror of the whole thing, a mark that no big cat on earth ever leaves behind. Some of the bone fragments recovered from these dens passed all the way through a hyena's body. The animal's stomach acid actually etches the surface of the bone, pits it, smooths it, half dissolves it, leaving a signature you can still read tens of thousands of years later, under a lens. Think for one moment about what that really means. It is not just that a cave hyena could kill one of Vale's people. It is that it could consume that person so utterly, so completely, that pieces of them would come out the other side and lie in the den among the horse and the bison. For Vale, then, the fear that lives in her chest is not only the fear of dying. It is the fear of being unmade, of ending up as a scatter of chewed, swallowed, acid-etched fragments in the enemy's home, indistinguishable in the end from a horse. That is the specific weight she carries every single night in this gorge, not just death, erasure, becoming refuse in the house of the thing that hunts you. And the cave hyena was no ordinary scavenger skulking at the edges. It was larger than any hyena alive today, a powerful pack hunter in its own right, more than capable of pulling down horses and bison on its own. It did not merely wait for Vale's people to leave their scraps. It competed with them directly for the living herds, and when it could, it took what it wanted by force. This was not vermin. This was a rival apex predator, matched against Vale's band pound for pound, mind against mind, hunting the same animals and denning in the same stone. And then comes the night it all goes wrong. Every night in this world is a gamble, a bet that you and yours will still be here at dawn. Most nights, you win the bet. This is a night the band loses it. Maybe the fire burns down too low, its wall of light and heat shrinking back toward the embers. Maybe the wind outside is loud enough to swallow the sound of them coming. Maybe there are simply too many of them this time, more than the band has ever faced. The clan comes for the cave, not out of cruelty, not for sport, but for the shelter itself. The warm, dry space out of the killing cold that both species need, absolutely need, in order to survive the winter. There is sudden noise and firelight thrown wild and jumping across the stone, and the band breaking apart, scattering out into the dark to save whatever lives it can. Most of them make it out. They usually do. These are strong, fast, capable people. Vale hauls the young ones up the rocks and away into the freezing dark, heart slamming in their chests, out into the one place that is, tonight, somehow safer than the shelter. But not everyone is fast. There is always a straggler, the old one whose knees have finally gone, the injured one who cannot run, the young one who freezes for one fatal heartbeat at exactly the wrong moment. And the dark closes in behind that one, and the sounds that follow are the kind of sounds that no one else in the band will ever, for the rest of their lives, be able to forget. By the gray light of morning, the cave belongs to the clan, and someone who greeted the last sunset alive is simply not there to greet this one. The band moves on, fewer than they were the day before, and they do not look back at the cave they lost. There is no time and no use in looking back, but something happens inside Vale that no hyena will ever feel about her. She carries the missing one with her in her mind long after the gorge is behind them, because that is the deepest cruelty buried in this story. The two sides were not equal in every way. Vale's people mourned. They knew loss as loss, not just as one fewer body in the band. To the clan, the straggler was a good night's feeding and nothing more. To Vale, that same person was someone she would go on grieving in the dark for the rest of her life. Weeks later or years, it does not really matter which, the den is opened at last, not by Vale's people but by us tens of thousands of years further on. And this careful digging is the only reason we know any of it ever happened, because a hyena den is a kind of terrible museum, a record of everything the clan ever dragged home and ate. The scientists dig and they sort and they find the horse. They find the bison. They find the reindeer, all of it cracked and gnawed and swallowed and passed and preserved. And there, lying among all of it, with no shrine, no separate resting place, no ceremony, no marker of any kind, they find the thigh bone of a Neanderthal, radiocarbon dated to around 40,000 years ago. One of the last of his entire kind, and carnivore gnawed, chewed at both ends in exactly the same way as the horse bone lying next to him. This is the reveal that the whole story has been walking us toward, and it deserves to land cold and flat without any comfort. To the hyenas, there was no ceremony because there was no distinction to make. A human was not a special enemy to be feared or honored or even particularly noticed. A human was a source of meat and marrow, filed away in exactly the same place as everything else that could be caught, killed, and cracked open. The very same creature that made fire, that knapped elegant flint tools, that cared for its injured and buried at least some of its own dead with what may well have been real grief. To the thing waiting in the dark, all of that meant precisely nothing. He was meat that happened to make tools, and when the night finally went wrong, he became just meat. There was no cruelty in it and no mercy either, only appetite and a strong jaw and a bone that would keep for 40,000 years to tell us it had happened. It is tempting to end a story like this in triumph, to let the music swell and say, "But we won." And in the very longest possible sense, we did. The cave hyenas of Ice Age Europe are gone now, extinct, vanished from the world, and our own kind spread out to cover the whole of the earth, but do not let the music swell. Because the victory is far colder than that, and it took far, far longer than we like to pretend, and it was never once guaranteed. For tens of thousands of years, across the whole of this cold continent, human beings and cave hyenas fought this same slow, grinding, ugly war, over the same caves, the same herds, the same handful of scraps of shelter against the same killing winters. And for all of those tens of thousands of years, the outcome on any given night was never certain. Some nights the humans held the cave. Some nights the hyenas took it and took someone with it. We tell ourselves a clean and flattering story about our past, that we were always the hunters, always the apex, always and forever the ones standing on top of the world. But the bones say something else. The bones do not lie. The bones say that for a very long stretch of our history, the difference between being the hunter and being the garbage in the enemy's den was not some grand, settled law of nature that placed us safely at the top. It was your fire staying lit through the night. It was your legs being fast enough when the moment came. It was the wind that particular night not being quite loud enough to hide the soft sound of them coming across the scree. It was, in the end, one bad night in the dark, and whether you, personally, were quick enough on that one night to not become the meat. And there is one more thing worth sitting with before we leave this gorge. The Neanderthal in that den was one of the last of his kind. His people were already fading from the earth, already down to their final scattered bands. He did not have the luxury of losing a single person. Every death in a shrinking people is a wound that will not close. And here was a death that did not even leave a body to mourn over, only fragments in an enemy's floor. We remember the grand story of how the Neanderthals ended, the rival species, the great eruption, the changing world, but it was also made of nights like this one. Small, ugly, unrecorded nights in which a single person was simply lost in the dark and cracked and kept, and the fragile web of a dying people frayed by one more thread. They kept our bones once and cracked them and swallowed them and ranked us among the horses. We won the long war and they are gone, but we should never quite forget that we were once the kind of thing that could be caught and cracked and kept, that our place at the top of the world was earned one desperate night at a time and was never, for a single moment, guaranteed.